girls go out with beautiful boys, and average boys go out with average girls. Well, that's just the way it seems, matchmakers, natural selection. Yeah, that's just the way it seems, no search for some affection.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome our next guest to the Sound as Ever podcast series, and a very special guest in terms of Sound as Ever. It is Rob Clarkson, a well-known name from the Brunswick Street music scene and in particular the Punters Club Hotel. Rob, welcome to Sound as Ever.
Hello, Jane. What are you doing sitting in the middle of Brunswick Street?
Trying not to get run over.
Well, watch yourself. There are trams left, right and centre.
Rob, the Punters Club means something very special to you, doesn't it?
It did, yeah. Well, when I caught the Punters Club for the first time, I think it was December 1989. So it was just before, a couple of months before I moved to Melbourne, and a friend took me there and into that back room, and we went through the back room door there, and there was the cigarette smoke coming through. There were people playing 8-ball. There was the music really loud, and you know, it was like 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon or something like that, and it was of course really busy. Everyone was drinking, everyone was smoking, and I just felt like I don't know, I just entered some sort of heaven that I couldn't believe, and I didn't feel worthy, and I just felt like I was gazing in the zoo with the most exotic animals. But Hobart 1989 was very different to Hobart 2021, and it was not the cosmopolitan and interesting and artistic place that it is now. And I just felt at home, but also not worthy. I felt very intimidated, but just so excited to be there. And then, I moved over a couple of months later, and the Punters was one of the places that I started gigging at pretty regularly. And then, ended up a few years later pouring a lot of beers there for about 4 years and cleaning it too.
And you got very close to the Punters Club Hotel residents, i.e. the people that lived up the top, or certainly one of them anyway, Stanley Paulzen from Tlot Tlot.
Oh, well, Stanley was one of the first people, and I was so lucky, so lucky that I got to know Stan. But he's one of the first people I got to know and got to be friends with, and we're very close friends ever since, literally, to this day. And but yeah, I remember going up to Stan's room and we started playing a few songs and stuff, and the room was painted black and it had mirrors. And he said, "Oh yeah, this prostitute used to work here." I was just so excited. It's just that, wow, that's such an interesting bedroom. I've never had a bedroom where a prostitute worked. And so again, it just added to the mystique of it. And we played some sort of 70s hits together, and we sang together a lot after that.
And of course, this friendship would lead to a band, a much loved band called Ruck Rover, later on post your solo career. What are your memories of Ruck Rover?
Well, I always thought we were much better than everyone else did. I thought actually one of the most interesting things about Ruck Rover was how good we were and no one liked us. I thought that was really interesting. So no, I just loved that. I love that sort of music that we played. So I was always really, really happy. And Stan's such a great songwriter. So to just jump in on his songs and sing some harmonies and play some guitar and, play and sing with someone like Mikey Allen as well was just fantastic. So I loved it. But yeah, we never got big crowds or anything like that. But some of the recordings are pretty good still. I reckon they're all right. They were so unfashionable at the time that they're not. If they'd been fashionable at the time, then they'd probably be unfashionable now. But they're just as unfashionable as ever were. So they're okay. They're all right.
Love it. Well, let's go back to 89, 90. You arrive. You live in Melbourne. Where was home for you at that point?
It was a share house in Albert Park. So it was one of those sort of like terrace places, and there were 3 bedrooms in there. One of them was Dan Tuffy from Wild Pumpkins at Midnight. One was a filmmaker called Mark Freeman, who's remained a close friend too. So again, just in the best share house, and just, you know, filthy and just gross and just VCRs from Rage just lying around, you know, and but so much fun and just easy to get to town. And again, just met a great bunch of people around there. But Albert Park was starting to get like pretty fancy, and I can only imagine what it's like now. But there was still shitty little share houses around then. Still.
Yeah, I don't think we'd find them now,
No.
Rob, just quietly. But how wonderful you mentioned Wild Pumpkins, because, you know, I think of Rob Clarkson's music in line with, you know, Wild Pumpkins, Tlot Tlot. There was Frente at the time. There was just this wonderful explosion of, I guess, gentle indie pop, for want of a better word, or that Brunswick Street sound that was so prevalent in the early part of the 90s. I put the Killjoys in there as well. It just seemed to be a scene that was exploding with like minds. You know, you were all doing different music, but you were a collective in a sense. I think there was a real camaraderie.
Oh, absolutely. And it was even more specific for me, Jane, with Wild Pumpkins, in that they were the ones that sort of got me over to Melbourne. They also were incredibly, like, I just learned so much about playing guitar from Michael Turner. He was just fantastic. And also I think they're sort of forgotten a little bit. Like, they used to get really big crowds, you know, their gigs were really big, and they did really, really well. But yeah, there was a great community. And I think a lot of people, when they do think of that period, they think obviously of the grunge stuff and that sort of heavier music, but there was a real sort of yang to that yin, if you like. There was a lot of acoustic sort of music going around, and sort of the more sort of songwritery sort of stuff happening as well. So it was, but I mean, it was just a great scene. There was three dimensions, you know, there was just everyone doing their own thing. So, but yeah, there was real camaraderie. And again, I was just stoked to be even a small part of it.
What's going on in your background, Rob? Have you got
I just
freight
can't
trains?
believe it. I tell you, stereo there in our building, right? There's a dude vacuuming the stairwell, and there's a dude with a leaf blower. Like, what a combination.
They must have known we were about to chat to each other.
Unbelievable. Yeah, they hate my music. They're doing whatever they can to wreck it.
You've heard that from them?
Oh, yeah, they start up when I start singing.
Is that right?
Yeah. No, it's an unfortunate Wednesday thing around here, but they shouldn't take too long. Do you want to pause, or?
No, I'm happy to keep going.
We're all good. Great.
Let's go back to the Punters Club. I saw you there many, many times when you released Beautiful Girls, Beautiful Boys. It must have been a pretty epic moment in your career, as it was one of your, was it your first record, your first release? Or had you released things prior?
I put out a cassette in 1990, which is called Hellbent in Hobart, which was an album. It was pretty much the songs I'd written in Hobart. And there were a bunch of songs about Hobart on that. And that had sort of, when I toured with Wild Pumpkins and also Weddings, Parties, Anything, helped me out as well. So I used to flog that cassette on the road. But sort of, yeah, the Beautiful Girls CD was the first one I'd put out. And that was really exciting. But it was interesting because it was all under the shadow of Frente at that time, because I played it. I was their support for their CD launch, for their big one that was the hit. I was Labour of Love and all that. And they just, as you can remember, that just went huge. They just took off like shooting stars. So I thought at the time, oh, okay, so you just put out a CD and you just become huge and become a superstar. So I thought, this will be good.
Easy, Rob. It did look that easy.
It did look that easy. So I thought, oh, well, I'll put my CD out and go to America as well. And it didn't quite work out that way, but look, it was fantastic. And I got to, I was traveling around a lot at that time with supports, but also going up to Sydney pretty regularly. I remember having a residency at the Punters and the Hopetoun in Surrey Hills in Sydney concurrently. Like I think the Punters one was like a Sunday night, the Hopetoun one was like a Thursday night or something like that, and I just catch the bus up, and it was so easy by myself, just ping pong up and down the Hume and do these residencies at the same time. So it was just so easy because I was by myself and it was relatively cheap just to fly around the place and, you know,
yeah,
play gigs. It was great.
Yeah, and of course, as you said, being yourself, there wasn't a lot of, you didn't have to share the gig money with anyone, did you really?
No, and I didn't, have to share the fragile egos. I just had to deal with that myself. It's just like, you work through this yourself, buddy.
Just on Frente again, of course, Simon Austin, well known. I mean, the Punters Club again was crucial for Simon meeting Angie and for them forming Frente, and I believe he worked behind the bar for a time.
Yep.
Was that during your tenure?
Simon was there when I was drinking there and playing there, but we didn't ever serve a beer together. But but Simon was fantastic too. He was really encouraging, and watching him play guitar was important for me as well. So because I was a really rough and still pretty ordinary guitarist, so to have all these really interesting guitarists around at that time was real education for me. And I used to love watching up close. And the Punters, of course, was a great place to watch people up close. So you'd really be able to see how people played their instruments and use their voices and stuff, which I think you only appreciate when you haven't seen many gigs for a while, and the difference between actual that physical sort of being able to zoom in on what you're interested in a live show. You see stuff on screens and it's sort of up to the editor and the camera crew as to what you're seeing. But when you're at a show and you're close to the stage, you can really watch someone, how their fingers move on a fretboard. You can really see how a vocalist can lean back from the mic a little bit for the big notes or bring themselves in for those quieter moments and stuff like that. And you're your own editor, you're checking all this sort of stuff up. You're watching the drummer's knee with the kick drum and all that sort of stuff. You probably don't even realize you're doing it, but it's such a different way of taking in music that there's definitely another dimension with that.
Beautiful Boys, Beautiful Girls got you lots of Triple R airplay and or Triple J back in the day. Take me back to when you wrote the song. It was was it a reaction to the beautiful girls and boys of Melbourne? Where did the song come from?
I think, it was just like a lot of those songs from that time. It was just being an insecure Tasmanian in an amazing, big, beautiful city, So I think a lot of it, I loved being in Melbourne, but I did feel really intimidated by the place, and everyone was beautiful and everyone was so clever and creative. And so, I didn't feel like I belonged as much as I did feel like I belonged, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Look, it was just, as these things usually happen, you just get a few chords together and you think, well, I need some words now, and that sort of just came out of it, I think. Yeah, there's like reference to like a Twisty advertisement, you know what I mean? Like so I mean, if you want a song dating, there's an example. Like, I don't even know if Twisty's advertise anymore. They don't need to advertise, they're so good. Life's
pretty straight, right?
Without them. But do you see, when was the last time you saw a Twisty ad, Jane?
I can't remember, Rob.
It's been a while.
Let's remind people of the brilliance of Beautiful Girls, Beautiful Boys.
Beautiful girls go out with beautiful boys, and average boys go out with average girls. Well, that's just the way it seems, matchmakers, natural selection. Yeah, that's just the way it seems, no search for some affection. There is a 15-year-old boy looking at Cosmo, production line beauty he enjoys. But he knows he has faith, he has hope, he has mighty, mighty high dreams. But get real, son, cause you see, you just might be out of your league. Cause beautiful girls go out with beautiful boys, and average boys go out with average girls. Well, that's just the way it seems, matchmakers, natural selection. Yeah, that's just the way it seems, the search for some affection. There is a 14-year-old girl in the cinema. She sees her man take on the world. He's looking so good, yeah, she hopes he jumps from the screen like the Twisty ad she saw, and takes her from her family scene, where she's decided it's such a poor bird. Beautiful girls go out with you. beautiful boys. And average boys go out with average girls. Well, that's just the way it seems, matchmakers, natural selection. Yeah, that's just the way it seems, we search for some affection. But there's some consolation for you and me, 'cause without exception, beautiful people got rooted personalities. And up till now,
Rob, what goes through your mind when you see that?
Oh, just how many nice people are in that clip.
It's like a who's who of Melbourne, circa 92.
Yeah, there's both the Tlot boys, there's Barb Waters, there's, oh gosh, there's just, yeah, a great.
Was that, did I see a scared, weird little guy there?
No, you didn't. No, you didn't, but you saw someone who was acting like one.
I recognise a couple of those faces.
Yeah.
It's just been too long since I've seen them.
Yeah, no, just really great bunch of people. And I think, so I think I've mentioned to you elsewhere, Jane, like the music scene, I think people talk a lot about the musicians, you know, they talk a lot about the musicians. That's understandable, but the music scene doesn't exist without the boyfriends and the girlfriends and the buddies and the punters who go along, who become friends, who buy the merch, who hang around, you get to know them, end up having a beer with them, all that sort of stuff, all that support you get when you're making music. And it's just humbling now, just like looking at that little clip then and just going, oh, wow, you know, what a great bunch of people helping me out that day, you know, what so lovely.
Does it put you right back to where you were? Or is it like another time, another era? Are you still connected when you see that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really, really interesting. I think you cross, because that's 29 years ago. I think you cross the threshold. Maybe it's 25 years, Jane, where it becomes another person almost. I don't know. I don't know.
I imagine so.
Yeah, it's I guess, you know, the interesting thing, I guess I do feel the connection because you kindly suggested that I do this gig and I've been practicing those songs and yeah, that's still me. That's still my voice. That's still my hand and all that. So I think that's the way. It's through the physical process of singing those songs that you do have that connection. But yeah, gosh, there's so much when it just it's just so different, so long ago. You know? It's so long ago.
When you go back to that moment and you think about that time, what are you most proudest of, career-wise? Was there a highlight moment for you?
Oh, gee, that's a really interesting question. You know what it is? It's actually the fact that I chose to decide to give it a go. That's the proudest thing. That you know, when I was 21 and in Hobart, and a share house room came up in Melbourne, and I decided to go and just do it.
Okay, so who was Rob Clarkson in Hobart then? What were you doing? Were you gigging around? What was your musical life like pre-Melbourne?
I was very lucky. I was born in Tassie, gone to school in Tassie, went to uni in Tassie, and I used to do a bit of theatre and all that. And then the last year in Hobart, I just started gigging, and Dan from Wild Pumpkins just saw me playing this night down at Salamanca Place, and he sort of remembered me, mentioned it to a friend of his who sort of knew me from uni and all that, because it's Hobart, of course. In
tiny town.
Tiny town. And so just through word of mouth, and, you know, it's bizarre looking back on all that sort of stuff too, without, you know, people texting each other or emailing each other. You know, you had to rely on word of mouth and people actually giving people pieces of paper with phone numbers on it and hoping that they wouldn't lose it. And so that was the way. And Wild Pumpkins came down and I got a support with them, and they were just so lovely to me and so encouraging, and they just basically had my back from then on. And they said, yeah, come over and just come over to Melbourne, give it a go. We've got a room in a share house. So, I mean, there was something in it for them. They got a housemate. You know, they got
what a great housemate they got.
A third of the rent covered. So that was good, but I couldn't see anything else in it for them. But yeah, so that was, but the fact that I decided to roll that dice and go for it is actually the thing I'm proudest of, because I know I would have regretted it if I hadn't. It would be something that would be on me now still. So I had to go, and it was, yeah, it was great fun.
All right. Well, we're going to take you back again to your appearance on The Noise.
Right.
I'm not sure what year this was.
It would be similar, it'd be 93 or something 93. Like that.
93. All right.
That show was fantastic, much missed. They used to have a lot of sort of indie stuff on there, and again, pre-YouTube and all that, it was really important exposure to indie music fans. So Annette Chanoir is just fantastic, and was a huge booster for indie stuff. Annette Chanoir,
yeah, I remember the show, because that was the only show that was playing things like My Bloody Valentine and Spyria X and really bizarre stuff from the UK at the time. So
do you know, it's so funny you mentioned them. Do you know, like literally over 30 years late, I've just got into My Bloody Valentine, because I was just so, at the time I was just like, I'm not going to be interested in that. I'm not interested.
Two gazers.
Now I'm finally listening with unprejudiced ears. Oh my God, they're amazing. They're amazing. My Bloody Valentine, they're my new discovery group. I found them.
Oh, I love it. It's never too late, is it?
How good are they though?
Oh my God, my ears are still bleeding from their. I went to a show in 2008 in London, I think it was, and they were actually handing out earplugs, and I was like, no, I don't need earplugs. I've been to gigs for 25 years. I don't need earplugs. How wrong I was. My ears were literally bleeding. It's to this day one of the loudest gigs I've ever been to.
Wow, but incredible.
And just a wall of noise. I just remember this wall of noise. I was completely captured and surrounded and ensconced in this noise, this guitar noise. But you go back and listen to albums like Loveless, and you just go far out. What was Kevin Shields on? My God.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Can we play one of their songs instead of one of mine?
When I see how you hold your cat, wish you'd substitute me for that. You would never have to feed me, and I rarely bring deserts home for tea. You tell me your futon's mugged up, 'cause it's so rarely rolled up. I'm an old-fashioned guy, I guess. Well, I still sleep and fantasize upon a spring mattress. Darling, we're so typical. We play around and act so cool. But when all is said and done, we could have fun like we really want. We could have fun. Love my photo to be in your wallet with your money. It could slip in with your healthcare card, but it's improbable. I know, I wish too hard. Darling, we're so typical. We play around and act so cool. But when all is said and done, we could have fun like we really want. We could have fun. And I wish I could see it all within your eyes. And then maybe you could make me realize that I can't even get past your pupils. Well, I'm so tired now, I can see I won't be sleeping Japanese. It's mattress time for me again with wasted.
What was that about, Rob?
What's going on?
A real experience?
I think I had a girlfriend with a futon. Yeah, I did. Again, coming from Tasmania, I didn't know about futons. we did 1980s Hobart didn't have futons. We barely had doonas, actually. I mean, it was mattresses and blankets.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So the girl with the futon mattress must have been quite exotic for you. I remember futons were taking over. We were seeing the explosion of futon shops in the 90s, weren't we?
Super sophisticated. Yeah. I mean, how could I walk away? Yeah. No, it was just fantastic. Look, here's that guitar. Look at that.
Oh, wow. You still have it.
Still have it. Still use it. Still love that guitar.
So you'll be bringing that to Leaps and Bounds to play
I'll
at the
bring
festival?
that to Leap and Bounce. Yeah. So, and that guitar was bought in a shop in Hobart in, like, I don't know what it was, like July 1989 or something. And
wow.
it was
It
secondhand.
served you well.
It served me really, really well. And that'll be coming down. That'll be coming down for the show.
It's funny because you say that you wrote so many of the songs in Tasmania, and yet when I go back to that time and hear songs like with my hand on my heart, I just hear Melbourne. I mean, and I know you did write about Melbourne things like Faraday Street. That's one that stands out in my mind.
There's a Faraday Street in West Hobart.
Right, exactly. So for me, you were quintessentially Melbourne. Isn't it funny?
No, but I was writing a lot. Like when I landed and looking back on it too, like I was writing flat out. Those first few years in Melbourne, I was just boom, boom, boom. Because you got a lot of, when you're playing a lot of gigs, you want to keep it interesting for yourself, and the best way to keep it interesting for yourself is to bring new songs in. So there are a bunch of songs from that time which I didn't end up recording, with good reason. But it was always just, and again, because I was solo, it was just easy. If I could remember the words and remember the chords, I could play it that night, so it was really, really fast. So but definitely, I was just soaking up the Melbourne experience, absolutely. And there's a bunch of stuff about my time in Melbourne, definitely. Yeah.
Was it Sharona who drove the yellow Corona?
It was Fiona.
Fiona drove the yellow Corona.
I know. Yeah. Yellow Corona sounds a bit Trumpy these days, though, doesn't it?
It just takes me back, because when you learned how to drive in the 90s, your first car was generally a Corona or a Corolla.
It was
with the P plates on it.
Definitely a Corona or Corolla. I would love to know what the difference is.
I couldn't tell you.
Between a Corolla and I couldn't either. One's got an extra consonant, but it's
bucket seats.
Bucket seats. Maybe that was it. A floor shift. But it was just definitely. There were a lot of those cars around and all that sort of stuff. But that was all about a convenient rhyme, really.
I love it. Well, look, we haven't got much longer, Rob, but I wanted to find out, there was obviously your solo career, which did well and got you a really huge following in Melbourne at the time. And then you formed Ruck Rover, as you said. What happened after that? Why did you leave Melbourne? When and why did you leave Melbourne? What went on?
Just a few personal things changed, and I went up to Sydney about 2007. And so I've been up here ever since. I played a little bit of music up here, but there's a supply and demand issue when you're playing, and it's all very well doing gigs, but if there's not really the demand for them, then it sort of peters off a bit. And I've been totally happy with that, and I'm not at all in the bitter ex-muso camp. Like, I just had such a wonderful experience playing music, and I still love music, and I still play guitar every day, and so it's not like I'm bitter and twisted about it at all. And it's just it was just such a great time of my life. But different things happen, and different parts of your life come along, but it's still in my heart and still in my blood. And I'm just, as I said to you earlier, I'm just so glad I made that decision to come to Melbourne and do all that stuff that I did. And so it's just going to be great to put the guitar back over the shoulder and, clear the throat and have another go at it for 40 minutes or something.
In the beautiful Fitzroy Town Hall too, which is quite fitting, I think.
Gosh. Oh my gosh, absolutely stunning. So it's going to be a super special treat, and I'm just going to have to go out of my way to not look like I'm enjoying myself as much as I am, because that won't be very cool, will it? You know, I'm sure I'm going to have a great time.
Do you have any kind of day job, or do you?
I do. Yeah, no, I'm not living on royalties. I'll tell you that,
I'm just
Jane.
wondering. Some people, yeah. Is it? You know, do you? May I ask what it is, or we're not? Is it? It's a secret.
I work with some urban planners. I'm not an urban planner, but I work with them.
Yeah.
And they're a great mob. So I'm very lucky. I've been working with them for about 10 years. And,
do they know of
your? Really they look after me.
Do they know you're famous in Melbourne?
Oh, one of them sends around links sometimes to things, and I just do not talk about it. Yeah.
Are you surprised how much love there's been for you on the Sound As Ever page?
Oh, look, it's just I can't. It's just super nice that people had a good night out. That's the way I think about it. If people came to a gig and they had a good night, then that's fantastic. You're a little bit of a soundtrack to that night. But there were lots of other things great about that night for them too. You know, they met with their friends, they had some pizza, they had beers afterwards and a billy and all that sort of stuff. So I was just a small part of that night. That's right. So all that. So if you're a part of a great night for someone, then that's just a beautiful thing. And if people remember it, that's even better.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to relive our youth, and we're going to relive that really fond moment in time when we were carefree. We didn't have mobile phones, and we were at the front at the Punters Club watching you deliver with your hand on your heart and your other hand on that fabulous guitar that you're bringing down to Melbourne. Rob Clarkson, an
it's been so nice talking to you.
Pleasure talking to you as well. I cannot wait to see you at Leaps and Bounds Sounds As Ever presents.
Thanks, Jane. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.